Hi, and welcome to another episode of Lead, Learn, Thrive. I'm Pia, and whether you're listening while out for a walk, taking a quiet moment between meetings, or listening late in the day when the noise finally drops away, I'm really glad that you're here. I hope this episode gives you some space, not to be productive, not to fix everything, just space to think a little differently about work, inclusion, and potential. Because today I want to talk about disability in the workplace, the disabilities we can see, the ones we can't, and the talent that too often goes untapped as a result. So let's dive in. Okay, so across Europe, including here in Malta, reasonable workplace accommodation is not optional. It is a legal requirement. And yet, despite legislation, policy and guidance, many organisations still struggle with the practice of inclusion. Not always because they don't care, but because of lingering misgivings, assumptions and unanswered questions. Questions like, how disabled is disabled? Will this affect productivity? What if adjustments are disruptive or expensive? And where does fairness end and favoritism begin? These are real questions, and avoiding them does not help anyone. So, when we talk about disability, many people still picture what is obvious: a physical impairment, a mobility aid, something clearly visible. But many disabilities are not immediately apparent. Neurodivergence, mental health conditions, chronic illness, sensory differences, fluctuating or episodic conditions. And because these are all unseen, they're often misunderstood or questioned. And people are left feeling that they need to prove their need, or minimize it, or manage it quietly. Now, this is not inclusion, and that is survival. And we have seen a rise in these hidden conditions since the pandemic. Okay, so one of the most persistent myths around disability is that disability limits contribution. That disabled employees are somehow less productive, less capable, or more difficult to manage. But the reality is far more uncomfortable than that. Many people with disabilities never get the chance to show what they're capable of and just how good they are, not because they can't do the work, but because systems aren't designed with them in mind. When someone struggles in an inflexible environment, we often label the person as a problem, rather than actually questioning the environment itself. Supporting people with disabilities at work isn't only a leadership or HR responsibility. It's something that even colleagues experience and shape every day. Many non-managers want to do the right thing but lack confidence, understanding, or simple exposure. Some uncertainty comes from ignorance, of course, but much of it comes from not having had the opportunity to learn, ask questions safely, or see inclusion done well in practice. When organizations focus only on compliance or policy, this everyday gap remains. Real inclusion requires moving beyond tick box approaches and investing in shared understanding, practical guidance, and open conversations at all levels. When inclusion is lived, not just written, workplaces become safer, more human, and more effective for everyone. So let's be honest about reasonable adjustments. Okay, there is also quite a lot of resentment around reasonable adjustments. They're sometimes seen as a nuisance, an extra cost, something special or unfair. And yet, workplaces make adjustments all the time for people without disabilities. We have, for example, flexible hours, remote working, adjusted workloads, quiet days, informal support. So these are changes, for example, based on personal circumstances. Now, we don't just call those adjustments, we call them being pragmatic. So the question isn't whether adjustments are reasonable, it's whether we're honest about who we already accommodate and why. And really, we should be moving beyond compliance. Inclusion isn't about ticking boxes. It isn't about lowering standards. It's about recognizing that talent doesn't come in a single shape, pace, or presentation. Some of the most creative, focused, loyal, and insightful professionals are people who think differently, work differently, or experience the world differently. I think one of the most famous people that I think sort of immediately springs to mind is Richard Branson. He's dyslexic, okay? And he is a strong advocate. But look how successful he is, okay? But people quite often are filtered out quietly by rigid job design, outdated assumptions, or fear of getting it wrong. That's not a loss for them alone. It's a loss for organizations. So I'd like to bring your attention to the jigsaw myth. There's a belief, especially within HR and management, that somewhere out there is a perfect candidate, that the exact jigsaw piece that fits the puzzle without adjustments is there. That person rarely exists, if we're honest. Okay? Every organization adapts, consciously or unconsciously, to the people it hires. So the real question is, why pretend disability is the exception? Sometimes giving someone a chance, designing work thoughtfully, being open to difference, having honest conversations, isn't what breaks an organization. It is exactly what makes it stronger. So, I want to take this moment to acknowledge the work that is being done by the Commission for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, here in Malta. So I'm currently working with CRPD on workshops focused on disability, inclusion, and meaningful participation in the workplace. And I'm really encouraged by the commitment to move beyond compliance towards genuine understanding and impact. So more details will be shared soon. And this is where I'd like to have a call to action. Okay, so here's my invitation to you. Whether you're a leader, a colleague, or decision maker, pause and ask, where might our systems be disabling people rather than enabling them? What assumptions are we still holding about capability and value? And what talent might we be missing simply because we haven't made space for difference? Inclusion doesn't require perfection. It requires curiosity, honesty, and a willingness to design work for real humans, not idealized ones. Disability does not cancel contribution. Difference does not diminish value. And giving someone a chance, a real chance, might just be the decision that strengthens your organization in ways you didn't expect. So, on that note, thank you for spending this time with me. And if this conversation resonates, keep an eye out for more information on the upcoming CRPD workshops here in Malta. And until next time, take care, keep leading, keep learning, and keep thriving.